Good morning and welcome to Club Helensvale on the Gold Coast of Australia for the first Trans-Tasman test of 2020 between the New Zealand Blackjacks and the Australian Jackaroos. Our feature match of the first session of this first test is women's pairs action. Selena Smith and Jo Edwards of New Zealand up against Lindsay Clark and Rebecca Van Ash of Australia. And after New Zealand picked up 3 on the opening end, Australia has scored on the next 4 to now lead 7-3 after 5 of the 18 ends. I'm Brenton Vanessa. I will be providing commentary throughout the day alongside Kevin Hickland as always. Very good morning, Kevin.
Yeah, good morning, Brenton. From a sort of bit of a frightening day with the weather here on the Gold Coast. We don't know what to expect because we had overnight rain, thunderstorms, lightning, and play got underway a bit early this morning because the weather is very unpredictable, especially for the next 24 hours. So let's hope that we can get through everything at Helensvale today and move on to Musgrave Hills tomorrow. So play underway, and as you say, we are featuring the game between Lindsay Clark and Rebecca Van Ash up against Selena Smith and Jo Edwards. So 7-3 after 5 of the 18 ends, and we've seen, just about to see Lindsay Clark play her third bowl on this 6th end, and look a bit scattered at this point in time, Brenton, don't they, on this playing down towards the road end here at Helensvale.
Yeah, and you would have seen both of these two, of course. Lindsay Clark and Rebecca Van Ash came over to New Zealand for the Burnside pairs as well. In fact, both Australian pairs combinations, men and women, coming over, so both of them in pretty good form.
Certainly were, and they were qualified, of course, for the main event. Did the pairs combination of Lindsay Clark and Rebecca Van Ash, and in the men's Corey Wedlock and Aaron Wilson. And of course, they went on to win the Burnside pairs. And we watch this bowl now of Selena Goddard's Smith coming underneath the head. First time I've done it, didn't take long, and draws the shot, badly needed. As Brenton rightly said, a 3 on the very first end to the Smith-Edwards combination. Interesting, Brenton, isn't it? We've had 3 international events in the last 12 months, and Jo Edwards has had, in fact, 3 different leads in the pairs. In the Asia-Pacific, of course, she led with Kirsten Edwards leading, where they, of course, won a bronze medal. Then in the multi-nations, just prior to Christmas, with Taylor Bruce, where they won a silver medal, just narrowly losing to Karen Murphy on an extra end. And of course, in the Trans-Tasman, also Taylor Bruce led in that event. And today we've got this series, we've got Selena Smith. So obviously the selector's just trying to find the right balance to get this pairs combination right with Jo Edwards. And this is a new combination. And I saw your interview yesterday. I don't think they've really played very much before as a combination. So be interesting to see how they go, and it started off well, and I'm sure both, we know how good Jo Edwards is, and Selena Smith, of course, winning the pairs just recently at the national championships, of which you and I were at Christchurch. So in fine form with Caitlin in. So I'm sure as the Trans-Tasman progresses, we'll see consistency from Selena Smith.
As Jo Edwards' bowl just goes past the head. You see Goddard still on Selena's shirt, but very much Selena Smith now, married just over a week ago in West Auckland. A big congratulations to her and her husband Alex. And yes, you're very much right there, Kevin, searching for a pairs partner for Jo Edwards, and this being the last of the trials really before that World Championship team is named for the World Bowls in late May, early June. Back here, of course, on the Gold Coast, and a big opportunity for Selena Smith to impress. There's a bit of trouble around the head again for New Zealand. Jo Edwards, very important bowl this.
Got to be careful, of course, here, as Jo Edwards doesn't lose her own. She's got good weight now, trying to get down to the jack or the shot bowl. Might just slip underneath it, but it just fractionally overdraw weight. In fact, more than likely be 4th shot, I would say. So now New Zealand do have 2 bowls on the head, and you'll have seen, Brenton, as well, some of the sides like England. They've announced their side now for the World Bowls, as have Scotland, Ireland. A number of the countries now have named their sides, and we're looking at the Scottish and English sides, 2 very, very powerful sides they'll be bringing here to the Gold Coast come May, June. So this event this week here for the New Zealand side, this is such an important event, not just for the players, of course, but for the selectors as well. Andrew Kelly, of course, not here with the men because, as we know, he's waiting the pending birth of his first child, so Crystal Eve came into the men's side. But this is a huge event for the New Zealand side.
Yeah, and Australia as well, of course. This is their final trial as well before World Bowls. And this combination, Lindsay Clark and Rebecca Van Ash, relatively new. We actually saw them in the third and final Trans-Tasman test in late November after Chloe Stewart and Kelsey Cottrell played in the first two tests. And they actually won the last match against Joe Edwards and Taylor Bruce. So the New Zealand women's pair from the first Trans-Tasman had a 2-win, 3-loss record, so Australia getting the better of them in this discipline. Be interesting to see how it plays out over the 5 matches of this test series in 2020. As again, Joe Edwards almost a replication of her previous bowl as that one slides through, and I think that was 3 signal, was it there? So 3 more for Australia, as Australia pick up a 3 on the 6th of 18 ends to take a 10-3 lead. So Lindsay Clark and Rebecca Van Ash, after getting into it 0-3 hole against Selena Smith and Joe Edwards, it's been all Australia since. They had control of the mat, Kevin, and they've really dictated terms.
Certainly have, and the New Zealand side have struggled, and the head's been dominated by the Australian combination, by Smith and Van Ash, and Joe Edwards has been forced into the recovery mode. And of course this is the first Trans-Tasman test for I don't know how many years in the Australian women's lineup. No Karen Murphy, of course, who announced her retirement at the Multi-Nations event. So this is a new look side. Karen Murphy has been just a permanent fixture in that Australian side for so long at Commonwealth Games, Asia Pacific, and of course and won't be there to defend her world singles title, which she won in the last, she won 2 in a row, of course, both in Adelaide, of course, and in Christchurch. So some changes in the Australian side as well, as we watch the jack delivered right to the 2 metre mark, and superb bowl there from Selena Smith. That's the start that they wanted, sits right alongside the jack.
Yeah, that was the kind of start that they got off to with Selena Smith, a very consistent off the front on the opening ends, but unfortunately since then Lindsay Clark has got the better of her, and this is a pretty decent response from Lindsay Clark as well. She's going to sit on that Selena Smith bowl to grab the shot back for Australia. Of course, as you can see, there are 3 other matches taking place in this first session of the first Trans-Tasman test. We have the women's triples. That's Wendy Jensen, Val Smith and Caitlin Inch up against Ellen Ryan, Kelsey Cottrell and Natasha Scott. New Zealand leading 5-3 after 6 ends of that contest. We also have the men's pairs. That's Shannon McElroy and Gary Lawson against Corey Wedlock and Aaron Wilson. And the Aussies, after 5 ends of that contest, leading 6-4. And in the men's triples, that being Crystal Eve, Mike Kernahan and Ali Forsyth, they are leading Wade Runiger, Aaron Tees and Aaron Sheriff 5-1 after 6 of the 18 ends in the men's triple. So we'll keep you up to date with all of those matches while we bring you commentary of this women's pairs contest here. First session of the first Trans-Tasman test. We got off a bit earlier this morning as they try and get in as much bowls as possible before the expected rain does arrive. Of course, contingency plans are in place. If it does become unplayable here at Club Helensvale, we will move indoors. They will do everything they can, Kevin, to make sure these games are completed.
Certainly will, and this green here at Helensvale holds the water pretty well. This, in fact, was Lindsay Clark's home club, of course, but the greens here do tend to hold pretty well. And as we saw, like last night, Brendan, we had thunderstorms, lightning, etc. And we woke up this morning, not a sign of rain. Streets were dry, no sign whatsoever. So obviously this tropical season that we're in, these thunderstorms and lightning can come and it disappears pretty quickly. So let's hope if and when it arrives that it doesn't curtail things too greatly.
Yeah, exactly right. 95% chance of rain yesterday, but that certainly has dropped this morning, and let's hope it does stay away, because we want to get a full day of bowls in here at Club Helensvale. In the second session of the day, we'll have a men's fours match for you, and then women's triples to finish the day. As a lovely bowl there by Beck Van Ash, just sitting on an earlier bowl from Lindsay Clark.
And the problem for New Zealand here really is Brenton, is that Australia are dominating the heads early on in the game, so New Zealand can't really build the heads, and that's because we've seen Lindsay Clark being very strong in and around the jack, and certainly Joe Edwards got a great chance here to come down here, sit on the Australian shot bowl, rest it out and make shot of it. Looks as though it's going to be under the line, and it duly is. You very clearly see here on your screens at home that with the lines which we play to in Australia here, you can very quickly see the line of the bowl, and you've got an idea whether it's on target or outside the line or under the line, and that one there we could clearly see early on in its journey that it was under the line and wasn't really going to reach the head and dislodge the Australian bowl.
Yeah, you can also see from Joe Edwards' body language as well. She turned on her back on that one pretty quickly to signal that it was not on the line she wanted it to be. As Beck Van Ash chasing this one down the green. As Lindsay Clark's interested again. Just trying to, I think, sit on the Joe Edwards bowl, but it just slides in between. But another handy area. Look at all of his collection of bowls all around the head. He can throw a tea towel over those 5 bowls, the 3 Australian bowls and the 2 New Zealand bowls.
Of course, the danger for Joe Edwards here, of course, Brendan, if she doesn't play with a lot of weight, there's a chance of dislodging, taking her own bowl out and laying 3 down. So be careful with her line and weight to get to that shot bowl, and that danger is created, of course, by the pressure that the Australians are putting on with their bowls around the head. As we watch this bowl, Joe Edwards is breaking down towards the heads, needs to get a slide to get to the yellow bowl of Australia, and it does, dislodges it quite clean and sits there. Magnificent bowl by the world #1 women's player. And of course,
superb, wasn't it, that bowl?
The last Trans-Tasman, which we did here on the Gold Coast, Brendan, the New Zealand women's side, of course, only really went down in the end of the last game on differential. It came down to, so these two sides in the last Trans-Tasman over the 3-day period were very, very close right throughout, and I'm picking we're going to see a similar thing, and let's hope that the New Zealand men, with the change around, with of course the re-availability of Shannon McElroy and Mike Kernahan back in the side, and we'll be interesting to see now how this new lineup goes in this Trans-Tasman. So New Zealand holding as we watch the drive of Van Ash, gets the jack, pushes it out to the side, moves the jack all the way back. I'm not sure where there's a New Zealand anywhere handy there, but there is a number of Australian bowls right at the back of the head, so Joe Edwards got her last bowl, and you can see if you look now, looks like another number, Brenton, looks like a big number in fact with that jack. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1 in the ditch, all Australian bowls.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we can pan down it all to see exactly what the picture is, but Selena Smith was asking for her to try and come through between these 2 bowls here, see if she can rest alongside the Aussie bowls. It's going to come up short, so it's going to be a few to Australia here. 1, 2, 3. Australia further extending their lead. Is it potentially 4? Will there be a measure for a 4th? I think we might get the umpire in here to assess the situation perhaps, or are they happy with the 3? They're going to measure that white one to our left of pitcher and come back to the bowl, I think, in the ditch as well.
Yeah,
so that was a toucher.
The problem that New Zealand have got themselves into, Brenton, is the numbers that they're dropping. You know, like we've had 2 lots of 3s now. You know, we were 5-3, then went to 7, now 10, and now we're going to be about 14. And this is, of course, what we can't afford to have, but it comes about by the Australian domination of the head and getting back bowls. And we saw, in fact, in the very first end in this game, and you and I remarked, we weren't on air, that the advantage, New Zealand had the back bowls, jack got moved, and we scored the 3. And now it's so important playing against Australia, because they will certainly have no fear whatsoever of attacking the head.
Yeah, very much in command of this match is the Australian pair now of Lindsay Clark and Rebecca Van Ash. That already signalled that there's 3 on this. They're measuring for a 4th, so chance to potentially go 14-3 up Australia. After 7 of the 18 ends it will be.
Indication was there from Lindsay Clark. I thought she indicated it was the New Zealand bowl, in fact, which was...
Yes, correct. Yeah, I
the
just
fourth
seen.
shot.
Yeah, so 13-3 it will be now. Australia over New Zealand, so picking up a 3 on the 7th of 18 ends there, Australia. So New Zealand, fortunately, that wide bowl of Selena Goddard's enough to stop it being 4.
New Zealand, of course, then we saw Joe Edwards play a magnificent bowl with her second bowl to convert the head for New Zealand, to give them the scoring chance. But Rebecca Van Ash, as we know, very strong attacking player, dislodged the jack right back to the ditch, and New Zealand right to the end of the rink. New Zealand couldn't cut back on that number. Blustery conditions here this morning at Helensvale. Look at those flags out on the road front. But I suppose one good thing about that, Brenton, is we've got that wind, sure, but whilst it's doing that, it's keeping the rain away as well. So,
well, hopefully it's not bringing it here.
It could be.
that's the other thing it could be doing. But yeah, very blustery, gusty conditions, because at times there's not much wind. But when the players were getting introduced, when we had the anthems playing at the start of the day, it was very, very gusty, and you can see on all the players' faces they weren't enjoying it too much. And a stark contrast to yesterday when they were practicing here yesterday afternoon. It was incredibly hot. The players all came off the green absolutely dripping. They were really actually concerned about how they're going to deal with these kind of conditions if they replicate themselves during the test series. So they'll be at least far more comfortable in this weather out here at the moment.
Oh, that weather yesterday, Brenton, was absolutely, it was stifling, wasn't it? It was. We knew there was rain coming as well, but the weather yesterday here on the Gold Coast, it was, you just simply couldn't find the shade quick enough. I don't know what the temperature got to yesterday, but it was certainly right up there. An exceptionally warm day, as we see Selena Smith's second bowl drift through the head, holding the shot in front. But again, New Zealand not getting domination. You know, Australia played 2 loose bowls on this end, and New Zealand haven't been able to get any domination on the head, which is what Joe Edwards ideally would like, because that's Joe Edwards' strength. As we know, Joe Edwards, of course, will also be playing the singles for New Zealand in this Trans-Tasman.
Yeah, she'll be facing Kelsey Cottrell, who she played in the 3rd and final Trans-Tasman test of 2019 as well, in November last year.
Better bowl here from Selena Smith, going to come right in behind the jack, sit just in behind it, and good third bowl there from the New Zealand lead. That's what they need. They can now change over, holding the shot. They've got one in front, and the shot bowl sitting just in behind the jack, and then another bowl sitting about a metre and a bit in behind if the jack gets moved. So it's the sort of heads New Zealand need to start building to get their way back into this game. 18 ends, of course, and as Brenton said, he'll keep you up to date throughout the morning of the other 3 matches.
Yes, indeed. I was just actually looking at the scoreboards of some of those others, and we've got the women's triples alongside this contest. New Zealand, after 7 of the 18 ends, are leading 7-3. In the men's pairs, Australia leading 9-4 after 7 of the 18 ends. And the men's triples, it's New Zealand 6-2 up after 8 of the 18 ends in that contest. So it's pretty evenly matched so far. The pairs are going Australia's way, but the triples both going New Zealand's way. And this is the biggest margin so far of the 4 matches in this women's pairs contest. Australia up to an early 10-shot advantage, and we're yet to get halfway through the match.
Yeah, big start here for Australia. Good thing is, as we play the 8th end, New Zealand are holding the shot. As we watch the Joe Edwards bowl come back towards that centre line, the bowler Selena Smith definitely the shot, and would just be the one sitting in behind the jack level bowl of Australia would most likely be the second shot. And Lindsay Clark indicating that to Rebecca Van Ash, and we may see Van Ash in fact attack the head to try and dislodge the Selena Smith bowl. She's certainly a very attacking player. That's what she's doing. The Tasmanian trying to get down under the line to the shot bowl.
Yeah, hoping maybe even just to get a touch on that bowl, that short bowl of Goddard, and maybe go straight into the head as well and take out the jack and maybe pop back to where her bowl was, but just sliding past. So unfortunate there. Now Joe Edwards a chance to pile on a bit of pressure, a rear end where New Zealand are in control of proceedings here.
Good bowl here coming from Joe Edwards, gets past the Smith bowl, sits in right behind the jack and sat dead right on the centre line, sitting right behind the jack, and I'm sure we'll see now Rebecca Van Ash may well change her hand and play down to try and get to the Joe Edwards bowl. The Tasmanian girl, lady, general manager at Bowls Tasmania, the big swing. This is going to come down with a bit of weight, and it sure is. It's on its way. It's on the centre line now, getting close to the Joe Edwards bowl. Got the jack. Bounces all the way up.
Incredible. Very rare you see that. The jack has come down the green a good 3-4 metres.
It was always on line, wasn't it, to get down to the jack or the Joe Edwards bowl. But as you rightly say, Brenton, it bounced its way right back up the rink. So Joe Edwards just got 30 feet to draw another shot, and sounds a bit unkind.
Yeah, you'd think certainly that the Selena Goddard white bowl is shot at the moment. Joe Edwards should make it the shot, and that will be certainly. And Selena Smith is going to have a bit of a word with Joe Edwards here, saying, where do you want me to put the mat? Where do you want me to place the jack, as they finally get the mat back after they picked up a 3 on the first end. From then it's been all Australia. But New Zealand, I believe, picking up a 2.
Well, tactically,
on that 8th end to cut this deficit, Kevin.
Yeah, tactically now you might think that, I don't know about taking the jack all the way back to the 2 metre mark, because it does play into the hands of the Australians being able to play the attacking shot far greater towards the, and that, so Joe Edwards rightly, and I thought so, just brought the jack up to a far shorter end. Now this sort of negates a bit of the attacking play from Australia, because they love trying to get the jack, and if they can get it into the ditch, of course, that certainly plays right to their hand. So playing this way, it just now the pressure is on to Selena Smith. You just draw us close, and we're a better chance of building heads and taking some of the pressure off and putting pressure back onto the Australian side. A good call by Joe Edwards by shortening the jack length up, and Selena Smith has drawn about a metre by the indication from Joe Edwards, just lower the jack, and it just canned Brenton as well. The lead's been going very well on the long ends. Has Leslie as the lead for Australia. Leslie Clark might just put her off, but no, it hasn't. Going to draw the shot.
Yeah, still a lot of room for Selena Smith to try and draw inside that. Both bowls a good metre and a bit short of the jack, given the indication from both Joe Edwards and Rebecca Van Ash. Can confirm that it was a 2 picked up on the previous end for New Zealand, so 13-5 now after 8 of the 18 ends. That's the midway mark now of this first match we're bringing to you of this 2020 Trans-Tasman. This is the first test of 3 from Club Helensvale on the Gold Coast. I hope you are enjoying our coverage wherever you may be. We'll have men's 4s to come in the second session and women's triples to follow that and round out the day as well. All weather permitting, of course. So rain is forecast for today, but we have our fingers crossed that it does stay away and we're able to get in a full day of bowls here at Club Helensvale.
So Selena Smith, her second bowl, drew jack level and made shot for certain, and we saw the Lindsay Clark bowl just drop under the head with a wee bit of weight, trying to reach or turn her bowl over, but definitely won to New Zealand on the shortened length which they're playing, and playing up towards the car park end here at Club Helensvale. And again, we'll see now Lindsay Clark on her forehand trying to reach up to turn her own bowl over or get to the shot bowl, breaking down towards the head now. Is it going to get under all the way or sit on that Smith bowl? Just going to fall short of it. Not sure there. May have made shot of that, Brenton.
Yeah, of course, we're playing east to west, west to east in the opening session. We'll switch around. And the second and third sessions will be played north-south, south-north as well. So it's a part of the day we'll get this view. We'll be playing from the clubhouse where we are broadcasting from and away from it in the next 2 sessions of the day. There's a little mid-green chat between Selena Smith and Joe Edwards.
I think we're going to see Joe Edwards follow up on the Lindsay Clark bowl, playing down through that port to try and get to what may well be the shot bowl, playing on the forehand, or get some movement on the jack. So Joe Edwards, the tall figure, world #1 women's player, on her forehand, trying to reach down, certainly underneath the line, and it's the shot she was trying to play all right. And the body language expresses her disappointment with that.
Yeah, you can see certainly what she was trying to do, just didn't quite get the line right there. Another couple of opportunities though. There's Beck Van Ash now for Australia. This relatively new combination as they look to confirm their selection, no doubt, for the World Bowls. We'll be back here, of course, on the Gold Coast. And 3 months' time, late May, it gets underway, running through to early June. 2 weeks of top quality action. Of course, New Zealand, a lot of tournaments here at these venues in preparation. This is the last selection event for the Blackjacks as well, trying to get the line right this time. It's going to come under again, but gets a nice little fortuitous touch on that Selena Goddard short bowl. Is that maybe enough for a shot, or is that yellow bowl?
Well, it indicates it's shot, but chance here for Rebecca Van Ash on her backhand, trying to get to the Lindsay Clark bowl, gets an inside touch of it. Interesting, Brendan, at the Burnside pairs, Corey Wedlock and Aaron Wilson went through unbeaten. The closest game, in fact, they had was against Rebecca Van Ash and Lindsay Clark in the first round of post-section play, and the guys ran out the winner fortuitously. In fact, I think that it finished up 14-13. So
wow.
They put up a magnificent fight up against Aaron Wilson and Corey Wedlock. So yeah, certainly a strong combination is Rebecca Van Ash and Lindsay Clark.
Yeah, and that combination currently leading Shannon McElroy and Gary Lawson, who of course went unbeaten through the Asia Pacific Championships last year. The last time Shannon McElroy represented New Zealand, of course, he sat out the multi-nations, he sat out the Trans-Tasman, also didn't play at the Somerset National Singles and Pairs in Christchurch at the start of this year as well. And congratulations to him and wife Amy, welcoming.
Well played by
Joe Edwards.
Ball from Joe Edwards there, getting the inside rub and turning the bowl out, and a toucher, and it's at least laying 2 shots.
Yeah, it's Shannon McElroy and wife Amy welcoming baby Luke into the world on Boxing Day. So his first born was born on Christmas Eve, the second on Boxing Day, and so had a bit of time to support Amy through the pregnancy, and then for the
great bowl here from Van Ash.
6 weeks. What a reply from Van Ash to take the shot away from New Zealand. New Zealand holding a couple. Van Ash steals it, and that's one more on the board for this Aussie pairing. 14-5 now after 9 of the 18 ends in this women's pairs contest. First session of the first Trans-Tasman test here at Club Helensvale.
It would have been great then, really, for the New Zealand side, Brendan, to have held on to those 2. Now, I know it's only 2 ends in a row that they would have scored on, but it just starts to give them that confidence and building up their heads. They played the jack to the right length, and straight away, if you notice, the Australians that have gone right back again to the jack on the 2 metre mark to play. That's the way they want to play the game, so that they can attack. And New Zealand shortened it up, and it really did work for them with 2 very, very good bowls from Joe Edwards on that head. But Rebecca Van Ash equal to the task, of course, and dislodged the Joe Edwards bowl and made shot as we watched the first Lindsay Clark bowl just come on behind the jack and sitting right on the centre line. Good opening bowl by the Australian lead.
Yeah, it certainly was. You can see what Kevin's talking about. They're favouring this length on the tee, able to play with that aggressive style if things aren't going well for them and get the jack into the ditch. How does Selena Smith adapt from the shorter end to the longer end, which has come up well short? As you see Joe Edwards trying to urge that bowl on unsuccessfully.
And this is where these are the situations whereby, you know, the lead plays such a vital role, Brenton, in these fixtures, because all of a sudden, if your lead gives you a couple of short bowls, you then can't really attack the head because you've got nothing in behind. So Lindsay Clark straight away has now got two sitting in behind, and early on it gives domination to the Australian combination, and it's imperative that Selena Smith doesn't have to get the shot, but let's get the bowl over the head, which gives Joe Edwards something to play to. If they're up in front.
Well, and Kevin, sorry to interrupt, given that everything was decided by shot differential as well in the last Trans-Tasman test in November last year, this is already getting to the stage where maybe they can't win this match, but they obviously they believe they can, but if they can't, let's just try and get close to try and cut down this differential, because New Zealand won the first Trans-Tasman test in November. They lost the second and third both on shot differential. It finished level in matches, but shot differential deciding both of them. So it is vitally important in every match that, no matter what the situation is, you continue to fight to try and just stay close, even if you are behind.
Well, especially when your other side that's playing in one of the other disciplines is in front, that you endeavour, and you endeavour to sort of bridge. It's interesting. I saw some results from the Queensland Premier League, Broadbeach, in fact, last weekend, where they played three games, and we saw Broadbeach win 2 of the 3 games, but still lost it overall on the differential, and that's why it becomes so important that for New Zealand's sake now, and we take this end, we're in a situation where all Joe Edwards can do is try and draw the shot, because one bowler, Selena Smith, is dead, it's in the ditch, and the other 2 bowls are short. So you can't get good scoring ends. You're playing to get 1 or 2 or cut down a number. And that's why it's so important for Selena Smith that she goes bowl for. Doesn't matter if she gets the shot, but you've got to match the Lindsay Clark bowls. If Lindsay Clark gets a metre over the head, you've got to be a metre over the head as well. It just makes such a big difference in pairs to have bowls around the head.
Rebecca Van Ash, first of the skips to play, of course, on this 10th of 18 ends, and another one in the area. It's not going to be counting. Almost jack level. And there's Selena Smith just looking at the line, looking at the options for Joe Edwards to play.
Well, the Rebecca Van Ash bowl actually sort of helps Joe Edwards in some way, because it gives her a good line, being sitting at jack level. So Joe Edwards knows if she's up the head and draws inside that bowl, very close to getting shot, and in fact is going to pull up a metre, in fact, on the centre line. Needed more weight to get to that counting area, so if she can get to the jack level bowl, Joe Edwards, it will make shot or a second shot.
Yeah, well, Rebecca Van Ash will try and change the situation here though, because she's first to bowl again. Just trying to sit inside that previous bowl of hers, but it's going to come up short. So that option is still on.
But it cuts the line off, of course, for Joe Edwards. Now Joe Edwards has got to thread the needle around that short bowl inside the jack level bowl to get to what is the shot bowl. The fortunate thing for Joe Edwards is she's got a very, very good drawing bowl. She's a big wide arc player, gets a good draw in a bowl, and is quite capable of threading the needle to get down to where that shot bowl is. But it looks as though it's going to come under the line, but it just depends on the weight. The weight might help here, and it will, and will definitely, if not, the shot will be 1-1 now to Australia, that being the back bowl of Lindsay Clark's. But we can see, Brendan, how it's just so important that you build heads. It's otherwise you're struggling.
You're playing catch up, aren't you? And that's something that this New Zealand pair don't want to do too often, but Australia have been dictating terms for large periods of this match so far. New Zealand's scored just on 2 of the previous 7 ends.
Trying to move the jack here is Rebecca Van Ash, and
unfortunate there. You can see exactly what she was trying to do. If she hadn't got the touch on that bowl, it would have gone straight onto the jack, brought it back to these 2 yellow bowls, and then it would have been
another one sitting over
well,
here.
Would have
so
been.
That was Rebecca Van Ash's bowl, so would have certainly been a good scoring hit for Australia. So let's just say we dodged one there. Joe Edwards will be endeavouring to try and draw the shot, certainly on a wider line. This is her last bowl. Breaks down towards the head now, just has to get under it cleanly, and not going to. and will be a further one, I would say, to Australia. That was the indication from Lindsay Clark. Out comes the measure.
Has that pushed that one in the second? That's the thing that they're looking at here, seeing whether that little promotion. 2. It is a second shot. So unfortunate there, Joe Edwards promoting that Australian bowl. So it'll be 16-5 now. Australia leading New Zealand after 10 of the 18 ends in this women's pairs contest here in the first session of the first test at Club Helensvale. Alongside in the women's triples, there's a measure going on, but after 9 of the 18 ends, it's 7 all in that contest. Looks like New Zealand have the mat, so they will be scoring there and taking the lead back after momentarily being all level. The men's pairs have certainly changed. New Zealand, who were well down early on, Shannon McElroy and Gary Lawson now 11-9 up after 10 of the 18 ends, and New Zealand still leading in the men's triples after 10 of the 18 ends. They're 7-3. They are leading Australia. So we'll keep you up to date with all 3 of the other contests taking place in this first session of the first Trans-Tasman test, but our feature match for the first session is this women's pairs contest. Selena Smith and Joe Edwards against Lindsay Clark and Rebecca Van Ash.
Interesting, right in front of us here, Brendan, the umpire down, having a look to see whether the jack, in fact, is in line, and he says it is out, because Ali Forsyth, in fact, had a bowl in the ditch. Looked like Australia had 3 shots at one stage, but the bowl now has been deemed out, so I'll leave it to them to sort it out. And back to the Smith, the Selena Smith, Joe Edwards, Lindsay Clark, Rebecca Van Ash match. Now here's the chance for New Zealand to dominate the head. 2 poor bowls from Lindsay Clark by her standards. Now it's the opportunity for Selena Smith to get right on top of the jack. First bowl jack level, and this is her chance, but no, it's going to go past, and certainly it's over the head, but this is the chance to get close to the jack and put pressure onto the Australians and to start building ahead as we watch Lindsay Clark play her 3rd bowl on this, the 11th of 18 ends, with Australia leading 16-5, and we see the Lindsay Clark bowl go by here. Great chance here for Selena Smith. Just get back to that centre line and get in towards the jack, and Joe Edwards can change over, holding 2 shots, and an opportunity, as Brendan said before, to score some shots. And even if you don't win the game, it's going to be under the line, and it's
very disappointing from both players, really, and especially well below the standard that Lindsay Clark's been playing at through the first 10 ends of this contest. So I don't know if the wind's just picked up or anything there. It looks like it is very gusty as you look at the flags in the background. Not sure if that was an impact there, but certainly not the head that we have seen at times in this match. Nothing really within Kiwi as the skips now take to the mat.
But I look also at the women's triples, and I can see how New Zealand have got bowls around the jack, as they in the men's pairs as well. So yes, there's a breeze out there, but quite a strong breeze really. It's not just a breeze. But the concentration, as we've seen from Rebecca Van Ash, get back towards the centre line, which she's duly doing, and draws the shot. And Joe Edwards down again, and that was the ideal opportunity really for New Zealand to build a good head right from the outset, but not to be. And Joe Edwards again under pressure on the draw. Again looks as go with her bolt. This will fall under the centre line, and it's going to be disappointed. Joe Edwards will be disappointed how things are going this morning, actually, because we know the class, of course, of Joe Edwards. As we see now, Rebecca Van Ash play her 2nd bowl, playing up towards the parking area here at Helensvale, and that's pulled up well short. That's most uncharacteristic of the Australian skip.
Yeah, I think that maybe the wind just dropped when she played that bowl.
Quite possibly.
And that certainly played a role, because the wind has certainly been having a bit of an impact on the green here. That's the only thing I can put that down to, because that is far below her usual standards. Again, can Joe Edwards pounce?
Good bowl here, coming here from Joe Edwards, breaking in towards the jack now. Just got to get to the centre line and sit. And it's a shot, I think, not indicated by Selena Goddard. Lindsay Clark having a the look over the top of the head now, and it will indicate, no doubt, that she's saying that Lindsay Clark indicating that Australia are holding the shot. Now, there's an interesting opportunity here. We'll just see where this bolt of Rebecca Van Ash goes in relation to the head. And if it disappears under that centre line, there's a great opportunity here for Jo Edwards to play the gamble shot and to drive that bolt out of the head or run it out on her backhand and can lay 4. And certainly New Zealand have to go for numbers, and may well be the chance that Jo Edwards takes by getting to that. You can see the yellow Australian bolt sitting there, definitely New Zealand with the next couple. See Edwards now, the shot that she's playing on, it certainly is playing on her backhand as we thought, trying to get down to the shot bolt, just going to be on the wide side, but that was certainly the shot to play.
Now Selena Smith looking at it, but yes, just saying 1 to Australia, so they score another 17-5 it is now after 11 of the 18 ends, and the ends fast running out for the New Zealand combination of Selena Smith and Jo Edwards.
The other real concerning thing in this, Brenton, is that New Zealand have only scored on 2 ends. 2 of 11 ends is all New Zealand has scored on, and that shows complete domination.
And
by
one
the
of the last 10.
Correct, correct. That shows the real domination by this Australian combination. So a lot of soul searching here for the New Zealand combination. Again, back to the 2 metre mark the Australians are playing, as Brenton and I spoke about before. That's certainly the length that they like to play.
Well, I mentioned earlier that there was a measure going on in the women's triples match. I think it was to collect a big number, because now, after being locked at 7-all, New Zealand's up 12-7 after 11 of the 18 ends in the women's triples. Men's triples, New Zealand up 9-3 after 11 of 18, and after 11 of 18 in the men's pairs, it's New Zealand leading 11-9. So this is actually the only contest that Australia is up in, but they're up in a big way. And knowing that differential was so important, shot differential that being in that last Trans-Tasman Test Series in November last year, Jo Edwards and Selena Smith will be determined to fight back and to certainly cut this deficit. Take it end by end, eat away at it if they can, and a narrow defeat will certainly be a very good result from where they're at this stage.
So Selena Smith had drawn the shot, sitting jack level. Just saw Lindsay Clark with her second bolt. Clark coming up and resting on the shot bolt. Jo Edwards indicating to Selena Smith, you follow that Lindsay Clark bolt. You two get inside it on that forehand or get a touch on the jack. The most important thing is, though, to be up to the head. It's going to go well past on the wide side. In fact,
in the ditch.
In the ditch it goes well past, and was going pretty quick as well when it dropped into the ditch. So again, as we see Lindsay Clark play her 3rd and last bolt on this, the 12th end, which is going to be narrow and under the line that Australia are dominating. Got a touch on the bolt. Jo Edwards really encouraging Selena Smith. And it's imperative that they build on this. I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will improve as the event goes on. But again, the Selena Smith bolt goes past by a good couple of metres, and Jo Edwards changes over again, down on the head.
Yeah, just trying to keep spirits up as well. You see the high five and a little bit of a chat between the two, Selena Smith and Jo Edwards. Jo Edwards now jogs back to the mat as well. Again, not having much to work with. Selena Smith's first bowl, the best of the lot. Last bowl is just under the 17 here, the bottom of screen.
It does give Jo Edwards opportunity if Jo Edwards was to sit on the bowl or trail the jack. Certainly there's some advantage here to New Zealand on this particular head, because they do have a bowl in behind it as we watch this bowl.
Yeah, well, that's the big difference, isn't it? Because in previous ends, Australia have had the back bowls. This time, New Zealand has a back bowl, thanks to Selena Smith. So all of Lindsay Clark's were short of the jack, as was Rebecca Van Ash's first. So see what Jo Edwards does here. If she's able to trail the jack, can make it 2 for New Zealand.
Good line on for Jo Edwards' bowl now as it breaks towards the jack. Is it going to get all the way down to the jack for shot? Yes, it will. Indicated that is the shot. And right back to the centre line and sat down in front of the jack for shot.
Oh, great bowl again from Jo Edwards. Wasn't the potential option we were talking about, but an even better result really, as now they will have a back bowler. This is going to sit on the Selena Smith bowl and just knocks it under our graphic. Obviously the Van Ash bowl right pretty much on the centre line, just on top of our graphic. As Jo Edwards will try and add to the count the old-fashioned way, just by trying to draw another inside that Lindsay Clark bowl.
It's on a very good line. This bowl is going to get all the way underneath to that counting bowl. Just got a touch on it.
Yeah, just on the outside, unfortunately, trying to come in the inside of that Clark bowl, but on the outside of it, so just the fine margins, not far away from being the absolutely perfect track, as Van Ash found it here. Looks like it's going to come under that centre line and find a home alongside all those Australian bowls there. And now Selena Smith gesturing, if you can get rid of that Clark bowl, that yellow bowl, just to the left of the jack.
Can make 4 of this, get 2 turns onto that bowl could well, at least 3 anyway. And Jo Edwards, I'm picking, will be trying to get, and again playing down that backhand, trying to get to the Australian bowl. It's on a good line. Is it going to hold all the way to get to the Australian bowl? No, it's not. Just went by.
Fair effort, but it'll just be the 1 for New Zealand. So unfortunate there. Jo Edwards just millimetres away really from both her second and third bowls from finding the ideal target. So 17-6 it is now after 12 of the 18 ends. Australia still in control of this women's pairs contest, and no surprise with New Zealand back in charge of the mat. Only the third end they've won. Jo Edwards says, Selena, we'll go short, thank you very much. And after being back at the 2 metre mark, we've been brought metres and metres up the green.
A long way, in fact.
Almost the shortest possible end. No need to have a measure to see if it's the regulation length.
So we'll see now. Hopefully Selena Smith can take advantage of this change of length. And because you're not quite so much exposed to the wind as well, Brenton, by playing that shorter end, just gives you, I think, more chances on the draw. Now this bowl is going to be well on the wide side, this first bowl of Selena Smith's on this, the 13th of 18 ends.
And we'll bring you up to date from the other games in progress very shortly. I know there's just been a measure going on, the women's triples contest as well. So once they've updated the score there, we will bring it to you along with the men's pairs and men's triples. Last time I gave you an update, New Zealand were leading all 3 of those contests. So this is the only one at the moment New Zealand is down in. And Australia very much in control, but I know Jo Edwards and Selena Smith will continue to fight here in this contest to try and eat away at this deficit, knowing how important shot differential may be, not only in this first test, but the final wash-up of this test series as well. As Selena Smith, short with her second. Now Lindsay Clark, looks like she's going to come up short as well. So this length proving slightly difficult.
Yeah, it is. And of course you can see the jack has just been moved by that Lindsay Clark bowl. First bowl just moved it off the line, only ever so slightly. So Selena Smith now play on her backhand and to draw the shot. And as Brenton said, New Zealand going fairly well in all of the other 3 matches that are out in front of us, and we'll update those in but a moment when Brenton can get to all of those scoreboards. As we see Violet Selena Smith's just breaking under the Australian bowl. Still plenty of room though for Lindsay Clark. It was from the Helensvale Club where we are playing today.
Yeah, I can see the board now. So in the women's triples, it is New Zealand leading Australia 14-7 after 12 of the 18 ends. So 2/3 of the way through that contest. In the men's pairs, it's New Zealand leading Australia 13-9 after 13 of the 18 ends. And in the men's triples, New Zealand in command there now, 12-3 they lead after 12 of the 18 ends. So apart from the match, the feature match of the morning, going very well for the Blackjacks so far, Kevin.
Oh, very much so. And from the men's point of view, they had a disappointing Trans-Tasman the last one prior to Christmas, and I'm sure that our men's side will be really fixed on. We're going to really show Australia that we're back, and it's a long time, of course, since New Zealand have won the Trans-Tasman series for the men. So a long way to go, of course, but a strong and the team looks they look to be, to me, they're in the mode. I reckon they look pretty good, the men's side, and a good start here this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. The important thing now for all those three New Zealand combinations will be holding on, making sure they get the wins, and if possible, trying to get some good advantage and shot differential as well.
Joe Edwards did hold the shot just for a mere second as she drew it in behind the jack with her first bolt at Edwards, and Rebecca Van Ash drew, as you can see there on the monitor, drew on the screen, just drew inside it. So here's Edwards again on her backhand on her second bowl on this, the 13th of these 18 ends, with New Zealand trailing 17-6 on a good line. It's going to break all the way towards the jack and make shot. It does. Superb bowl by the world number one. You can see there clearly it's a shot bowl. Joe Edwards under a lot of pressure. This game has the New Zealand skip.
Yeah, it certainly has been playing catch up end after end. Now, from the rare occasions that Rebecca Van Ash is having to come up with an answer, she's been pretty good when she's been needed to come up with a big play, and that was not far away there from trailing the jack back to those yellow poles. And that was a fine effort. Very small margin, wasn't it, to come around that front bowl of Selena Smith and to trail to the jack, and it was not far away.
It looked actually, Brendan, it was going to touch that bowl. Then it looked as though it was going to get the jack, and certainly just threaded the needle to within a few inches of the jack and the shot. As we watch this third bowl of Joe Edwards under the line, and I'm picking, we'll see, Van Ash will try and yes, through this port, try and play a wee bit adventurous through the port between the Selena Smith bowl and one of the Australian bowls, and play with some weight to reach up to the shot bowl. And of course a touch on the jack would be advantageous as well. Well, New Zealand got a bowl in behind the jack as well, so.
And we saw in the previous picture as well, Joe Edwards having a chat with the rink coach, Gail Melrose, as they just try and work out how to play these last 5 ends. Van Ash still down in conversation with Lindsay Clark over the head now, back pedaling, making her way, turning and making her way back to the mat to play this final bowl of this 13th end. New Zealand holding the shot for the Joe Edwards bowl. Can Van Ash come up with this time? She wasn't far away with her second bowl. I think by the way they're gesturing, she's going to try and play with a bit of weight in between these two bowls. It's a very fine margin. Looks like it's under the line. It is going to go under the line. And so New Zealand pick up another. 17-7 it is now after 13 of the 18 ends in this women's pairs matchup. First session of the first Trans-Tasman test here at Club Helensvale, with New Zealand leading with 3 other disciplines. Well, they were, but on the scoreboard's now showing 13 all in the men's pairs. You can see far right of screen in the previous shot. 13 all in the men's pairs. Of course, that's Shannon McElroy and Gary Lawson up against Corey Wedlock and Aaron Wilson. It was a pairs contest that New Zealand was down early in, then they fought their way back to take the lead. Now all tied up, so interesting to see how that one plays out. We'll keep you up to date with that, along with the other matches. The women's triple, New Zealand leading 15-7 now after 13 of the 18 ends, and New Zealand men's triple remaining in control over Australia 14-3 now after 13 of the 18 ends in that contest.
So just men's pairs, it's interesting though, Brendan, that with Shannon McElroy, Gary Lawson, Corey Wedlock, of course, with Aaron Wilson, and Paul Foster and Alex Marshall from Scotland, they would be, in my viewpoint, they'd be the three best combinations in world bowls. And two of them are here today. So we've got the best here.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. There's for certain some fine combinations. At these fine combinations at these Trans-Tasman. This is the second in a few months, of course. We had the Trans-Tasman in late November, which Australia ended up taking out in convincing fashion, really, in the men. Women, Australia only just getting the advantage, thanks to shot differential in the second and third tests. Jack's looking to bounce back.
But as you said before, Brendan, that's why this pairs game for New Zealand would be remarkable if they got up and won the Joe Edwards, Selena Smith combination. But it is important that they try and that they score and bridge that gap between the 10 at the moment, and because it will make a big difference as the 3 days progress, as we saw, of course, in the last series. And Joe Edwards will be very, very mindful of that. But again, short bowls from Selena Smith, and just makes it so difficult for the New Zealand skip, Joe Edwards.
Differential can be so important, and we look over the 5 pairs matches that were played in the women's pairs at the last Trans-Tasman. Scores of 14-13, 14-13, 9-12, 18-12 and 19-16. Very close contest, so often comes down to just 1 or 2 shots, as it did in the last Trans-Tasman. So every shot, every end, so important, and that's why you'll see them playing out the full 18, because every shot is so crucial in this contest.
So Joe Edwards will try and reach up to the jack. Over 3 down at present, she'll play with, I would say, good reaching weight to get to the jack. One of those counting bowls got the jack, and of course killed it, and the jack now will go to the 2 metre mark. And I'm sure there's an Australian bowl. Can't quite see how far that other bowl went. There is an Australian bowl down the back of the rink, which would most likely be the shot, but Jo Edwards was certainly 3 down when she played her bowl.
Yeah, urging that one on is Lindsay Clark, but there is an Australian bowl just below the picture here. It's just pretty much in front of the ditch. There it is.
There it is, right. So
just underneath the New Zealand graphic, or just above it now.
Jo Edwards endeavouring to draw the shot. Looks on a good line. How's the weight though? No, it's not going to run all the way. In fact, way short of weight. She'll be disappointed. Jo Edwards will be disappointed with that. New Zealand 2 down and trailing 17-7. 17-7. Australia lead.
Jo Edwards with 1 bowl left as Van Ash plays her second now. Certainly made the correction with the weight. The line's good as well, and that should be the shot bowl. So Australia holding, I think, 2, potentially 3, with this bowl just at the bottom of the screen being the 3rd. Favourable over the wide black bowl. Jo Edwards, as Jo Edwards will try and get that correction herself now with the weight.
Just how far is it going to come back?
That's too much weight, so it might cut the count. Has it cut it to just 1? Potentially.
Potentially just the 1. We'll know in a moment. Rebecca Van Ash got a further bowl left to play. And in fact, talking about
Get rid of that.
get rid
Make
of
it
that
4.
4 shots. So we're going to see Van Ash play down to try and get to the Joe Edwards bowl. Breaking down now, looks to be on the wide side, and it will. So
He had the weight to try and sit on that bowl and get rid of that Joe Edwards bowl, but not the line. So indication there, just the one.
just the 1 shot.
For Australia. But they have the mat back in their possession. So 18-7 Australia now leading after 14 of the 18 ends in this women's pairs contest. First session of the first Trans-Tasman test of 2020 here at Club Helensvale on the Gold Coast, where so far so good with the weather. Rain is staying away, blustery day, but an overcast, but not too hot. Relatively comfortable conditions for the players, especially when compared to yesterday, and most importantly, no precipitation as of yet.
No, yeah, as you spoke about earlier, yeah, yesterday, Brenton, that was certainly a scorcher yesterday, and we haven't got that today. As we watch this, the first bowl of Lindsay Clark is going to be well under the line and will drop past by about 1 metre. So here's the chance now for Selena Smith playing on her backhand, the New Zealand lead, who will also lead, of course, well, perhaps 2 in the New Zealand fours, with Wendy Jensen leading. As we watch this bowl, it's going to go by the Selena Smith first bowl. So here we have again a lot of applause for something that haven't, no doubt, in one of the men's matches out in front of us here.
Yeah, men's triples, I think it was, which New Zealand at the moment are in control of, but big bowl for Australia perhaps. They try and turn the tide in that contest as well. And after this end, I'll bring you up to date with what is happening on the other 3 boards. We've of course got women's triples, men's pairs and men's triples also playing in this first session of the first Trans-Tasman test. If you have just joined us, it's been going pretty well for New Zealand on the other boards. While they're down significantly in this women's pairs matchup, they have led the other 3. Last time gave an update, it was level in the men's pairs, but the women's triple and men's triple are both leading.
In Australia, holding the shot again here on the 15th end. As we watch that Lindsay Clark bowl, it's going to drop away under the head, but definitely holding the shot. And Joe Edwards really urging Selena Smith, encouraging her to. He's had a poor game, as Selena Smith should be disappointed in her performance in this first game of the Trans-Tasman. Just hasn't found her length at all. This looks a better bowl though, as it breaks in towards the head. Is it going to get underneath the Australian bowl? Yes, it will, and that will sit there for shot. Well played by New Zealand player. Joe Edwards just indicating that it might be just tracking a bit bumpy out there. It looks pretty good though, these greens. Traditionally the Helensvale greens are all the greens that we come to on the Gold Coast are always presented, it would appear to us, sitting in the commentary position, and the feedback from the players, that they always present very good surfaces. Can't do anything about the wind or the conditions, but the surfaces are always pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was the feedback from the players yesterday as well after practicing here. Well, it was sweltering heat that they were having to deal with. Certainly good feedback about the surface here at Club Helensvale. There's Beck Van Ash playing on her backhand, trying to reach that Selena Smith bowl, and does. Sits on it, knocks it out to grab the shot back for Australia.
So you can see there straight away, Brenton, that they're confident playing with that yard of weight all the time. Are the Australians, to try and dislodge bowls out of the head. And of course you can do that when you've got bowls in and around the head. As we watch this bowl of Joe Edwards, which it's going to come underneath the line and finish just slightly jack low. And the Australians, certainly when there's the opportunity to play with weight, they're certainly not fearful of doing so, for sure. Holding 1 shot is Australia, leading 17 shots to 7.
Lindsay Clark urging this one on. Another shot on the backhand side for Van Ash. Thumbs up for Clark. That should make it 2 for Australia.
The indication from Selena Smith was that it is 2. Of course, for the viewers there, Selena Smith is not a new cap in the New Zealand side. You can see the back of the shirt that Selena Goddard was, but as Brenton mentioned before, was married a week and a bit ago, and is now Selena Smith.
Yeah, new shirt no doubt will be coming. She'll be hoping that new shirt will be on her back for the World Championships. Of course, this is the last real selection trial for both the Blackjacks and the Australian Jackaroos before World Bowls back here on the Gold Coast, as that's a great effort from Joe Edwards.
Well, certainly cut the options down. Australia could have had a chance of scoring another 3 there, but the bowler Joe Edwards, although it fell short of the jack, certainly sat in a good position and doesn't allow a strong or big scoring chance from the Australian combination. As we watch now, Rebecca Van Ash, the Tasmanian player.
Yeah, because prior to that, of course, if Van Ash just got a bit of a little nick on the jack and spurted it out to all these Australian bowls, it could have been a big number for Clark and Van Ash again.
So here we'll see now Joe Edwards endeavouring to turn over her own bowl into the head to endeavour to make shot of it. New Zealand down, of course, by 18 shots to 7 in this women's pairs first round match here at the Trans-Tasman at Club Helensvale. So here's now Joe Edwards on the mat, on the backhand. Definitely one down, trailing 18-7 as we come to the end 15 of 18. Is it going to come back enough to get to the shot bowl? Great attempt by the New Zealand player, but not to be.
So one more for Australia. They continue to score. I think there's only 4 ends New Zealand have scored on of the 15 so far, so 19-7 it is now. Australian combination of Lindsay Clark and Rebecca Van Ash over New Zealand, Selena Smith and Joe Edwards.
Yeah, that's been the big thing in this match, really, Brenton, is New Zealand just haven't been able to build heads, because you rightly say we scored a 3 on the first end. On the 9th we scored a 2, and then the 12th and 13th we a single. So not able to build heads, and that just in the game of pairs just makes it a big challenge to get a convincing position.
Well, updating you from the other boards where it is going certainly much better for New Zealand in the women's triples. New Zealand up 17-7 after 14 of the 18 ends. In the men's pairs, New Zealand's up 14-13, so a very tight contest going on there. And the men's triples, New Zealand are up 15-5 after 15 of the 18 ends in that match. So especially going very well in the triples disciplines, and a very tight affair going on between Shannon McElroy and Gary Lawson of New Zealand up against Corey Wedlock and Aaron Wilson of Australia, of course, fresh from winning the Burnside pairs title, going unbeaten there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, certainly an informed combination is Corey Wedlock and Aaron Wilson, and I know at some stage over this 3 days we'll be bringing you one of the men's pairs games, and as I said earlier, I reckon that these 2 combinations, we've got 3 top world combinations, and I reckon we've got here 2 of those best in the world combinations here at the Trans-Tasman, and they are very attacking players. But as we saw at the Asia Pacific Championships, when Gary Lawson and Shannon McElroy went through unbeaten, they're certainly of the highest standard. Are these 2 pairs combinations? As we watch Selena Smith's bowl on this, the 16th end, her second bowl, which goes well past the head, and again it's Australia holding. And we watch now Lindsay Clark play her 3rd bowl. And it's not as that I don't want to be critical of people at this early stage of the event, Brenton, but early on in the game, Lindsay Clark certainly dominated the head, but the last sort of 7 or 8 heads has been ample opportunity for New Zealand to get some strength in the head, but they just haven't been able to collectively just get the bowls on the head to give them that opportunity. Yeah,
it's certainly been the case. Unfortunate for New Zealand that Selena Smith hasn't been as consistent as she would have liked. And whenever Lindsay Clark hasn't had a good end, she's been unable to really capitalise. They remain positive though, and able to still share a laugh there, Selena Smith and Joe Edwards, which is good to see.
Oh, it's just look. You have these matches and you put them behind you and move on. And I'm sure as Joe Edwards and Selena Smith look around the boards, they'll be spurred on by the confidence that the other combinations and the display of the other combinations are going, and that all builds confidence right throughout the whole team. And you just put this one behind you and then move on, because the start still a long way to go, but the start this morning from New Zealand has certainly been a confidence booster.
Yeah, certainly, especially if they can hold on that men's pairs match and get 3 out of 4. That'll be a great opening session. While it hasn't been overly successful here, and our feature match of the morning in the women's pairs for the Blackjacks going well on the other 3 boards, and we'll continue to bring you up to date with those during our coverage here. Of course, we have 2 other matches to bring you today, of course, all weather permitting, and I must admit it seems like it's got a degree or 2 colder. We might be seeing some rain in the not too distant future. Hopefully not, but it's held off so far this morning. Still overcast here, much different conditions to what we had yesterday, with clear blue skies and absolutely sweltering heat.
Where we're sitting here, Brendan, of course, we can see the clouds out here in front of us, which are grey, overcast clouds, but we can't see behind us. And that's where it's coming from, as we see Van Ash rest out the Joe Edwards bowl. Just came up with just slightly over the draw by a couple of feet, sat the Joe Edwards bowl out. Certainly leaves Australia holding 2, maybe 3, as Joe Edwards now play her 3rd bowl, and will follow up that Rebecca Van Ash bowl, trying to sit inside it to the jack, but it's going to be under the line and will need to sit inside the shot bowl, and it won't, and it's going to slip away. And the indication from Lindsay Clark is that Australia are holding 3. Yeah, that was the indication from Clark. So she's now saying let's draw down to the behind the counting bowls and get it amongst the 3 New Zealand bowls that are sitting there, where Joe Edwards could get a trail on. It looks as though it's going to come under the line, and it will sit on one of the Australian bowls, which will more than likely count.
Yeah, make it a bit harder to get that trail as well. Still, obviously, you play with the right weight, can get to the jack. Still a big opening there, but knocks away one of those options, but potentially on the backhand.
And Joe Edwards would have to change her hand to get to the jack now, one would think. Let's see what the indication is from Selena Smith, and trying to get down to the jack, move it back by a metre and a bit into where there's a Joe Edwards bowl and 2 Selena Smith bowls waiting, and Joe Edwards coming up to have a look, because as Brendan rightly said, New Zealand still want to try and score 3 shots here because of that differential becomes so important, and there is a chance here for New Zealand to score, and they can move the jack back towards right to the 2 metre mark, would certainly leave New Zealand laying 3 shots.
Well, exactly right. With only a couple of ends to play after this, it would seem that the result is gone.
Yes.
But they are still playing every end down to the end here because of the importance of shot differential. So that's why there's this mid-green conversation. Joe Edwards came off the mat. Selena Smith had almost halfway to discuss the options here. This final bowl from Joe Edwards of this 16th end, because it is important in the greater scheme of things, mate. Scheme of things. Maybe not the match itself, but the overall first Trans-Tasman test and the 3-match series.
And Joe Edwards, as we indicated, is playing down on her backhand, down on that narrow line, trying to get to the jack, but is under the line, would need to get some luck, and doesn't, and just ran into one of her own short bowls, or Australian short bowl, and that will beat 3 to Australia.
So they just continue to pile on the points to Australia. So 22-7 it will now be after 16 of the 18 ends. And there's been very little that Selena Smith and the great Joe Edwards have been able to do. Of course, the number 1 female bowler, Jo Edwards, has often been playing catch-up, been really left with too much to do on a number of the ends, and has unable to be able to come up with a miracle play.
Just quickly, Brendan, that men's pairs, end 16 just come to an end, and if I'm looking right at that board now, it is 18-13 now to New Zealand after 17 of the 18 ends.
So big previous end was that, and the last two ends really, since we gave you an update there, so that's well pointed out, Kevin. So a good sign for the Blackjacks there, because in the men's triples, it's New Zealand leading 16-5 after 16 of the 18 ends, and the women's triple also up. Giving you an update now, 17-9 they are up after 15 of the 18 ends. So apart from this match, which we're bringing to you here in New Zealand, it's been a good morning for them here at Club Helensvale.
Certainly has, and New Zealand, the men's pairs side, as you said before, Brenton, they started off, they were behind the Australians and caught up, and then it got all even again, and now New Zealand spurted away over this last couple of ends, and an 18-13 lead after 17 of 18. It's a great effort by Gary Lawson and Shannon McElroy, and back to the women's pairs as we play in 17, and scattered around again. The bowls, to Lindsay Clark's bowls, are a good couple of metres away. As you watch now, Selena Smith got the chance here to draw right on the jack, will draw to the centre line. It's about a metre behind, will be shot. And as Brenton rightly said, with the women's pairs, with the women's triples leading by 17-9, that's a good differential at this point in time. So it's imperative that the pairs, as we again see Lindsay Clark sort of nip her green badly and disappear away. So it's imperative that New Zealand do build a couple of heads, good heads, and score.
Yeah, well, given how evenly matched these two women's teams are, Australia and New Zealand, differential here. We keep harping on about it, but it's so important. 15 at the moment is massive. And so while Australia losing the triples, they have a massive advantage already in shot differential, because this is plus 15 here and they're only down -8, so that's a +7 advantage on shot differential at this early stage.
Well, it's like another win.
It is exactly right. It was the difference in the last contest. New Zealand actually ended up winning more matches over the 3 tests than Australia did, but the last 2 were level on wins, and Australia winning shot differential in both.
Makes a big difference as we watch now. Rebecca Van Ash, the Australian skip, well, one down on the head, and as Brenton rightly said, the women's triples on the next rink are in front, as is the Gary Lawson Shannon McElroy pairs combination, and the triples combination of Ali Forsyth, Mike Kernahan and Chris Lalive. They also are leading Australia in this first round of this Trans-Tasman, all-important Trans-Tasman Test Series.
Yeah, of course, the final selection event for both the New Zealand Blackjacks and the Australian Jackaroos. So performances here can go a long way to either confirming your place in the squad or potentially playing your way out of a World Bowls team as well. So certainly a little extra on the line beyond just the usual Trans-Tasman bragging rights.
Oh, everything's on this. And of course, we must remember that Andrew Kelly, of course, would have been here in the men's side, the winner of the national singles and runner-up in the pairs. He would have been here, except for the pending birth of their first child. So there's another player, of course, who's very much in contention and would have been here. Chris Lalive has come in and taken his place. Of course, Lalive performed very well, of course, at the Multi-Nations and the Trans-Tasman on his international debut. So there's certainly, as Taylor Bruce as well, and the women, along with Kirsten Edwards, who no doubt who have played for New Zealand as well this year, are still in the selectors' mind. So there's still certainly positions up for grabs, Brendan, and good performances are imperative here.
Yeah, certainly are. It's adding a bit more expectation on the players' shoulders. There's no doubt about that. Someone like Mike Kernahan, who's back, who missed the last Trans-Tasman and the Multi-Nations due to work commitments, certainly knows that he has to put in a good performance over the 3 days here on the Gold Coast to head to another World Championships. because I think even he would admit by his standards didn't perform as well as he would have liked to at the Asia Pacific Championships.
No, he didn't. He was quite, he was quite open about that. Mike was disappointed on the way Harry played in the Asia Pacific, but we all know how good a player Mike Kernan is. We watch this bowler Joe Evans just break towards the head. New Zealand holding a shot. It's a touch on the jack, not quite, but this is only one of a few very heads where there's only Australia really played the head quite poorly.
I might do a measure here, Selena Smith. As we've mentioned time and time again, every shot important, so they've got one. Lindsay Clark has picked up the one Joe Edwards bowled. It's one, and just one it is, Selena Smith indicating, so 22-8 after 17 of the 18 ends. New Zealand will have the mat for the final end of the contest. And we'll bring you up to date shortly with some of the other matches which are reaching a conclusion as well. 18-13 in the men's pairs, which I believe is over. I'm not sure what was scored on the final end, but New Zealand have won that contest. And the women's triples, New Zealand's up 18-9, I believe it is, after 16 of the 18 ends, and they're playing the last in the men's triples, and New Zealand's up 17-6, so that will be a win to New Zealand as well. So going very well on the other three boards for the New Zealand Blackjacks this morning.
Just looking quickly over at that women's triples, and can see that with Wendy Jensen and Val Smith, they've got bowls in and around the jack, and that's the where they haven't been able to do that this morning in the women's pairs, and that's why we've seen such a strong result to date from our women's triples as we come to the 18th end here of the women's pairs, where it's been a disappointing morning for New Zealand with them trailing by 22 shots to 8. We hope you're enjoying this coverage that we're bringing you from the Club Helensvale here on the Gold Coast. And tomorrow, of course, we'll be at Musgrave Hill, and then on the third day at Broadbeach. And each one of those days we'll be bringing you live bowl by coverage of the Trans-Tasman Test Series. As we watch the second bowl now of Selena Smith break down towards the jack. And it's a good bowl, it's a better bowl. It's what we wanted to see in the early stages of the match. Sits right on the centre line and just down in front of the jack. It's a good second bowl there by Selena Smith, with New Zealand trailing 22 shots to 8 as we play the last of the 18th end, which will bring this game to a close and a win to Australia.
Yeah, even if they can get a 2 or a 3 here, that could be crucial in the final outcome of not only this first Trans-Tasman test, but potentially the 3 test series as well, with the women's triple up by 9 in their contest. If they can only end up being down in differential by 1 or 2.
Well, first time for a long time Joe Edwards would be happy, because they've got 2 bowls sort of sitting right on the jack or close to the jack, holding 2 shots as we watch the bowl of Lindsay Clark just skip away underneath the head. So two shots to New Zealand as the skips change over. And bowl right in front of the jack, the second bowl of Selena Smith's, and her third bowl just out to the side, just got a feather off a Lindsay Clark bowl and made second shot of it. So we'll see Rebecca Van Ash, the Australian skip, who was seen right throughout this game, Brennan, not been frightened to attack. But of course, Joe Evans playing first after New Zealand scoring a 1 on the 17th end.
Yeah, I suppose the thing is, though, isn't it, Kevin, that Beck Van Ash hasn't had to attack too often, because most of the time she's been dictating the turns because of the work off the front from Lindsay Clark. And we've talked about it a few times during this contest, that Lindsay Clark has won the battle of the leads against Selena Smith, so it's made it a bit more comfortable for Beck Van Ash.
Certainly hasn't been under much pressure, really, Brennan. There hasn't been ends where Rebecca Van Ash has been 3 or 4 down and had to try and turn heads around or save them or whatever. So, and the men's triples has come to a close as well, I see. Mike Kernan here in front of us, so a win to New Zealand.
Yeah, and I think they've got the final scores up as well, which is very handy. So they actually finished in the pairs, 18-15 to New Zealand, and in the triples, 16-9 to New Zealand. So great start for the Blackjacks men, winning both of the disciplines in the first session of this Trans-Tasman Test Series.
Very good start by the New Zealand men's side this morning. 2 from 2, both the men's pairs and the men's triples. Great start. Peter Ballas and Marlene Castle and Philip Skoglund, he would be happy with that start for sure. And the women's triples as well. Yeah,
that 21-9 playing the last end, so that certainly helps differential-wise here. And that's what I mean. If New Zealand here, Joe Edwards and Selena Smith, they pick up a 2 or a 3, then all of a sudden New Zealand is potentially ahead differential-wise.
Well, the lane 3, I would say at present, is Rebecca Van Ash coming down to have a look at the head. In fact, may even be 4.
Yeah, that just shows, you know, this is Australia up by 14 here playing the last. The importance of shot differential. Australia know that's how they won the last Trans-Tasman, the women winning the second and third tests.
Well, we could just about, it'd be great if we get to a situation where you just about nullify those points with the triples, of course, having a strong win, and the pairs picking up a number here.
It's just Caitlin Inch continuing her incredible form, isn't it? Obviously won the double at the recent Somerset National Singles and Pairs, winning both the pairs title, firstly with Selena Smith and then beating Joe Edwards, the double Commonwealth Games champion in the singles as well, and now is carrying on her good form, skipping both the triple firstly this morning. She'll be back in action this afternoon in the 4.
What's interesting, Brendan, isn't it? And I take my hat off to New Zealand selectors and I think it's made a huge difference to Caitlin Inch, who see it drive off target here from Rebecca Van Ash. They shake hands, and that was the change, we'll see, that was 3 or 4.
Yeah, it certainly was.
Of moving Caitlin Inch to skip, I think has been the big telling point of this magnificent run we've seen from the young New Zealand player.
So either 3 or 4 on that final end. So a win for the Australian combination of Lindsay Clark and Rebecca Van Ash. We'll bring you the final score when we return this afternoon for the second session action. But very much looking like it will be 3 wins out of 4 for New Zealand in the first session of the first Trans-Tasman Test here at Club Helensvale. I'm Brenton Vanessa-Roy alongside Kevin Hickland saying we'll see you very shortly in men's 4s action from 3:15 roughly New Zealand time. May start a bit earlier with the weather situation here at Club Helensvale, but make sure you join us then.